speaking of the orange Antichrist, that, oh, good God, don't the Christians just love him to death, huh? Don't they just love him to death? Literally. Now, depending on the decisions of the U.S. courts, the orange bastard won't appear on the 2024 primary ballots in Maine and Colorado. Again, that's depending on the decisions up to and including, I'm assuming, the U.S. Supreme Court. But these are recent developments now, what has happened in Colorado and Maine, that are leading to death threats, of course, against the top election officials in both those states. Of course. This is what Nazism, fascism does. This is what Trump encourages. Kill them, threaten them. And these white devils, these moral skunks, these Christian fascists that are running around in this country doing the evil that they're doing, they always rise to the occasion, don't they? Let anybody, anywhere, point out the criminal behavior, the madness of their Messiah, and they are immediately there, ready to issue death threats. Well, in response to Maine voters formally challenging Trump's eligibility under the 14th Amendment, that's because the Democratic Secretary of State, Shanna Bellows, barred him from that state's primary ballot last week. Although she did suspend the decision until courts could rule on the appeal. And in response to that reaction to this murderous son of a bitch, Donald Trump, a day later, her home was swatted. You know what that means? SWAT. SWAT, Special Weapons and Tactics. When your home is swatted, it means that one of these Christian devils will call the police, hysterically sounding that there's somebody holding hostages inside your house. He's got a gun. He's already killed 2 children. Please help me, help me. And then the SWAT teams show up, and it can devolve into a horrible situation because the SWAT teams go on the idea that the police received this truthfully, and they're there to rescue people. And the people who falsely make these phone calls are Christian Nazis who want to see, in this case, the Secretary of State of Maine put into harm's way by law enforcement. You see how it works? Ms. Bellows, the Secretary of State, explained on Facebook on last Saturday, quote, "We are away for the holiday weekend. We are not home yesterday when the threats escalated and our home address was posted online. It was a good thing because our home was swatted last night. That's when someone calls in a fake emergency to evoke a strong law enforcement response to scare the target. Swatting incidents have resulted in casualties, although thankfully this one did not." End quote. And then the Secretary of State added, Ms. Bellows, Shanna Bellows added this, quote, "This behavior is unacceptable. The nonstop threatening communications the people who work for me endured all day yesterday is unacceptable. It's designed to scare not only me, but also others into silence to send a message." End quote. Now, in Maine, there was a hoax emergency call in which an individual claimed that he had broken into the Secretary's residence on Friday night. And this is according to the Maine State Police. They conducted an investigation of the exterior and interior of the home at the governor's request. And, of course, they found nothing. Now, along with slamming this bullshit of the swatting, the governor on Saturday called out, quote, "extraordinarily dehumanizing fake images of her that were recently posted online. She said, quote, "These dehumanizing images and threatening communications directed at me and people I love are dangerous. We should be able to agree to disagree on important issues without threats and violence," end quote. Every time I hear that from a liberal, from a Democrat, from someone who's trying to find a point of agreement or compromise with these Christian doubles. Every time I hear that, I think to myself, don't waste your breath. You're not going to be able to agree to disagree on important issues, on any issues, especially not threats or violence. With who? Some piece of human waste like Marjorie Taylor Greene? Somebody like that? Or these Nazi high command types that work around Trump? Agree to disagree on important issues without threats and violence? Threats and violence are, pardon the expression, the mother's milk of the Nazis. They know how to use threats and violence. They've been doing it for 2 millennia. They know how to go after people. They know how to threaten people. They know how to terrorize people. And they know how to mass murder people. This is what the Christian Nazis have been doing for 1,800 years. And they're not going to stop now. Why should they? Their Messiah is here. The Antichrist, Donald Trump. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. You know, the Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. Weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.